Alright guys, what's up? This is probably the same footage that I used for another video, I want to say about a month ago, but I could definitely be wrong. This is just another Borderlands 3 recording of me playing with some friends. I don't think I was streaming at this time, I think it was all just one really long recording where I was like helping them get to whatever level. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that before in the other video, so this could be that exact same video. Right now, I'm just clearing off the videos from the drive that I have because I do have a lot of footage that instead of like cutting up and making like a compilation of funny moments of, or at least not for all of them, I'll end up just using some as background footage for like me talking over them, like giving commentary to whatever. So in this case, um, what I really wanted to talk about was the Transformers like set of movies. I've pretty much seen them all now, like the live action ones. Basically went back to rewatch them, and there are some comments that I have naturally, and like they've really just thrown me off guard. So, I wanted to take some time to just rant and get my like voice and opinion across. So here it is. Um, there will obviously be spoilers because I'm gonna talk about things that have happened in the movies that could, just overall spoil the content. I don't want to have like this extremely long video where I'm breaking down like scene by scene of everything, but because I don't necessarily know what this is all going to include, and I know that it's really just going to have my opinions in it, I know things might get a little out of hand, so that's just a heads up to let you know what to possibly expect from me. But yeah, let's get right on into it. So, starting off with the first Transformers, it was like super cool, right? I don't know exactly how all of these were hitting for the times when they were released, but I did notice a trend where Transformers would come out every 3 to 4 years after the other, right? So that was a cool little trend that I've noticed. It only takes a few, excuse me, amount of years for one to come out after the other. But the first one was pretty standard. We find out that like Bumblebee and Optimus Prime and maybe a few others have been on Earth for X amount of years already, and they're calling down other Transformers to come down because of you know um, the to be honest, I don't even necessarily remember why like they were calling the others to come down to Earth. Maybe because they were all officially regrouped, or I think it was just because the main character Sam, who was played by Shia LaBeouf, I think because he had found. Oh yeah, it was the glasses. It was like his great grandfather's glasses, and it turned out to have a map of like the Allspark, and all the Transformers were losing their minds because the Allspark is like the key to everything, or that's the kind of vibe that they give in the first like movie, right? So Decepticons are coming for Sam, Bumblebee comes for Sam. Fast forward, there's like this whole war that goes on between the robots, and Autobots ultimately end up winning, but naturally the Decepticons aren't like completely gone, right? So they're just waiting for their next opportunity to take another win whenever they can get the opportunity. And naturally the Autobots and Decepticons are on Earth because there was a war going on between what was basically humans but robots, which are the Transformers, and the Decepticons end up winning, right? And this is something that like confused me too, right? Because what we find out is in like the second or third movie, because I think there's four total. In like the second or third movie, we find out that Unicron is Earth. Unicron is a planet that devours other planets, and it actually pretty much went to war with Cybertron, which was the planet that the Autobots and Decepticons like lived on together before like all the wars and everything were popping off. And Unicron was trying to like devour Cybertron, but the queen of Cybertron, which in the third movie is like the main antagonist, she convinces Optimus Prime to come back to Earth. She was apparently Optimus Prime's maker, which was a little confusing too because I believe it was the second movie where Optimus Prime is getting taken back to like his makers, They want him back. That might have been the third movie. They want him back, and they're all supposed to be like all as in all the knights because Optimus Prime apparently is a knight, and he's not the only knight. And they're all being taken back to their makers to get rebooted, resetted, and forced to do a new bidding, which would be like a very interesting concept, except it's not the original makers who are coming to get like the aliens. It's like a bounty hunter that they ordered who's got the entire arsenal backing them so that they can come and get the aliens, which is super like confusing because it's like, okay, so the queen sent a bounty hunter to get all the knights around the world, but the bounty hunter keeps referencing to the creators as in plural. So obviously the queen isn't the only creator, but the knights are referring to the queen. The knights, like the other knights, are referring to the queen as like the queen of deception, which means that she probably actually isn't the creator. If she is the creator, she's only one of the group of creators. And Optimus, I believe, like knows who the queen is and even tries to fight the queen, but obviously loses because somehow she's gained control of the planet. And another thing that confuses me is Optimus is like, what have you done to our planet? What's happened to our planet? And it's like, bro, you knew that your planet like got turned into Krypton, where it basically got destroyed because of the Decepticons. So why are you so confused? But it was floating off into space at the end of one of the movies and then in the beginning of another movie because he was looking for his creators because he was coming to actually come kill them. So it's like he mentioned in one of the movies that the Allspark is like his soul, right? It carries his memories, it carries his power, it's like his heart and soul. So it's like, were you frozen in space for so long that your spark ended up like flickering out and that's why you don't remember what happened to your planet? Or is there something completely different where like your planet gets destroyed for a whole nother reason off camera that none of us know about and we only really know if you watch like the cartoons or read the comics or something, right? And that's the trend that you're gonna find in these movies. There's little details that like contradict themselves, and I don't know if it's because like they're supposed to be a part of different universes or if there's something that like I'm missing, but that was one of the big ones, right? Optimus is like confused as to why like his planet is the way it is, even though he's spoken over the course of like 2 to 3 movies before this on why the planet is the way it is, right? That's not the only one though, all right? Unicron. Unicron turns out to be Earth. Unicron is the planet that destroys literally all other planets and fights Cybertron for power. Unicron apparently is like this overwhelming power, and he's basically a demon, like one giant god roaming through space, killing anything in his path, right? And it's kind of ironic that he turns out to like mold over and become like this being where life just grows on him, right? In the newer movie, there's this like set of like robots and they're centered around like wildlife and they end up basically losing their planet to Unicron like all the other planets did. But these beings are a type of robots that exist in time and space, so they live in a past, present, and future, and they act as if they don't know that Earth is Unicron. So if they're living in a past, present, and future, how could you not know that Earth is Unicron, right? But it doesn't really get like shown that it is. So they don't really know that it is. But in my mind, if you're living in all of these times at the same time, then you should know that, right? And Unicron is like traveling through time to come back to Earth so that he can take over Earth and I guess merge with his old self to like have never turned into Earth, I'm guessing. But they don't really talk about that in the movie. That's just something that you have to put together, and that's through the course of like the third and the fourth movie. Another thing, the third movie ends on a cliffhanger where the queen is talking about basically how she's gonna bring Unicron back, but you don't see the queen in the fourth movie. So it's like, what was the point of her having that little like epilogue after the movie if she's not really gonna be like a big player in the fourth movie, right? Which was like super confusing. The fourth movie, right, has a completely different tone than the first 3 movies. The third movie has a completely different tone than the first 2 movies. And I say different tone in the sense of it's almost as if somebody new directed it. And you can kind of see that. I don't know if Steven Spielberg has been in all of them by default, but he was in like the credits for the fourth one. I don't know if Michael Bay was, but Michael Bay has been in the credits for pretty much all of them because I guess he was pretty much creating all of them, right? So there's a lot of stuff in the air that's just like confusing. Like Sam Witwicky, which was Shia LaBeouf, he was the main character for the first two movies, dies in the third movie. So we start off with a whole new like set of actors, and in the second movie, his girlfriend, I don't know if it's the second, it might have been the third. The second and third movie, his girlfriend leaves him, so he gets a new girlfriend, and the new girlfriend's supposed to basically be like the first one, where they have like this really like dedicated relationship, but they don't explain why the first one left them, and the first one was there through all of the war and helping them and everything. So how do they just randomly break up? You know, there's no like light shown about it. They barely talk about it, and when they do talk about it, they talk about it in this kind of like side goofy way to further confirm that they broke up, but not exactly why they broke up. All right, so yeah, they like have a breakup and they don't really explain why they break up, or I guess how they break up, or what's the point of them breaking up. They kind of just barely touch on it. So we have this new girl and she's treating Sam like a dog, right? But at the same time he likes being treated like a dog. So it's like that's a completely different relationship from what he had with the other girl, where the other girl originally was kind of treating him like a dog, but they gained like mutual respect, and she was only kind of treating him like a dog because he was a nerd and she didn't really know him, and she thought he was going to be like uncomfortable and weird and like a geek and whatnot. And then when she kind of realized that, hey, like he's the GOAT, you know, she was really just kind of feeling him. But like this new chick basically finds out that he's the GOAT and still treats him like garbage. And for some weird reason, Sam goes like, he's living off this high of always like running with the Transformers and protecting the Transformers and fighting alongside them, that he doesn't ever really get a life, he doesn't get a job, so he's always like living off of his new girlfriend, and she basically just uses him as like this little fun excitement package where she has sex with him whenever she can, and she's just like using him like he's a toy, and he has no problem with that. And then um, they go through all the stuff that they go through, and Bumblebee is like hinting at them getting married, and I guess it's supposed to end with them getting married, but in the next movie you find out that he dies, and you don't know what happened to her, and you don't know anything about his parents. And one of the like the girl of I think the third movie, because there's two main characters at this point. If not the third, then it might be the fourth. No, no, no. Oh, I said that there were four movies. I think that there's actually five. Like, there's like Age of Extinction, right? Okay, hold on. There's the first one, right, where the Decepticons and Autobots really just start popping up on Earth with Sam Witwicky, right? Then there's a second one, which I'm blanking on the name of it, but like, basically, you know, it's them running through Earth with everything going on a second time, and by this point the Decepticons have taken over, and Sentinel's back, and Sentinel is like Optimus Prime's mentor, and Optimus has to kill his mentor because his mentor defected over to the Decepticons, and they found his mentor on the moon. So that's the dark side of the moon. That's the second one. Then the third one, I believe, is Age of Extinction. I could be wrong about that, and that's basically like where Sam's dead, I believe. And so there's a new one, a new main character, and it's like this dad with his daughter, and Optimus Prime turns out to be, you know, hunted by this other robot, and this other robot apparently doesn't come necessarily from Cybertron. He just goes around killing robots because he's a bounty hunter. He doesn't like qualify as a Decepticon or an Autobot, which I thought was absolutely cold, right? I've never seen a robot like that. I think his name was like Lockdown, and he works for the humans, or rather the humans work for him so that they can get a seed, and the seed turns out to be this thing that like overwrites the Earth, right? It destroys every planet to allow more Autobots and Decepticons, really Decepticons, to be created, which is confusing to me because whenever a spark or something touches something on Earth, it automatically turns Decepticon. So it's like, how do you even have Autobots? Like, are Autobots really just Decepticons that got tired of being bad, and that's why they went to war, and that's why there's so many Decepticons compared to Autobots, right? Is it like with slave owners, and like how like
the South went to war against the North, and that's why there's so many more like racists than there were people who just didn't want to be racist. Like how did that happen? Like why are there so many more Decepticons? Why are there so many more Decepticons being birthed off of like a spark? If the spark, if only like, because they talked about the spark, like the all spark, and the only thing that it does is bring life to stuff, right? It brings light to stuff, and it has like an infinite amount of power. So if that's all the spark does, why is everything that comes to life evil? And is it because the stuff touched on Earth are evil because it's Unicron? And we just don't know that it's Unicron, and like they're mixing up these movies in order to get that. Like none of it really just makes sense, you know what I mean? Because they don't just flat out like lay stuff out. So you have to like watch the movies over time to kind of get like kind of get an understanding of what is actually like happening, right? So that goes down, right? And Optimus is like, your race is going to bring itself to extinction because they want the seed and they're stupid, and it is what it is. But like Optimus ends up staying around to help anyway. Um, and then after that one, there's a second one. It's the one with the knights, right? I think it's like The Last Night. Okay, so that means that there are 5 movies. The Last Night. The Last Night is the one where it's 2 main characters. It's the female and it's the male. And it's the movie that's weird where they keep talking about the guy hasn't like had sex basically since his wife died, and they basically make fun of him for it. Like, oh, your wife's dead and your penis has been dry for like the past 18 plus years. You're a sad loser, but you get to be the knight. And it's like, what? Like, what's the point of that? And what even started that? Because we know damn well that like when the knights were actually roaming on Earth, because by this point you find out that Transformers have been on Earth basically since the first humans. Transformers are the reasons why dinosaurs are dead, right? Like you find that out by one of the movies. So for them to say that like Bumblebee's been there since like the First World War, right, doesn't make sense on how Optimus brings up that they've been stranded on Earth for only 7 years. Like that's obviously not true. Unless he's talking about him being stranded on Earth with his new crew, which is like Bumblebee, him, RC, and I forget the other dude, but he's pretty funny. He's actually like the main Transformer, that Mirage. Like, is he saying that all 4 of them together have been stranded on Earth for 7 quote unquote long years? Or does like their time work different than Earth time? Like how like there's so much that just doesn't get explained, and stuff just doesn't make sense. And you go to Google and you go looking up like, why is this way? Why is this that way? And Google's got no answers for you, bro. Nobody knows why the Transformer movies are like set up the way that they are. Other than like, I guess like the main producer being replaced or power being handed over, whatever the case may be, because that's what it seems to be, you know? So, you know, there's the Last Night or whatever. And then the chick turns out, like the female character of the Last Night movie, turns out that she can also wield the wand just like the witch, and they end up fighting over it, and the humans win. And then the last movie comes out with like the primals or whatever. They're basically just animals from Earth, but they're also robots. So like in the Last Night movie, I believe was the first one, if not that one, then the one before that, we find out that, I think it was the Last Night movie, we find out that the other knights that were with Optimus Prime can transform into dinosaurs, which is also something that just flat out doesn't make sense, because we kind of find out that like these Transformers can turn into basically literally whatever they want to, but they turn into cars and trucks and planes and whatnot. And I'm guessing based on the size of like what you actually are as a Transformer is the vehicle that you can turn into. But then again, we've seen Mirage turn into one of those big chunky cars that can carry like garbage can trucks, but before all that he could turn into like really fast race cars, which is something else that was also confusing, because Bumblebee and Optimus Prime were both beat up in several different movies, and when they cloned another vehicle they were able to like gain all of like their high-tech power back. But it turns out that they've always had the high-tech power because it's in their spark. They just choose to be beaten up, but they talk about needing repairs and don't necessarily get the repairs that they need. So it's just so confusing, man, because at one point in one of the movies, Optimus talked about his friends being able to help him get back to normal. But we know, based off of one of the older Transformer movies, that the only Transformer that can actually repair on other Transformers ends up dying in a new movie. So what are the other Transformers that actually know medical assistance, right? Like, none of these other Transformers are medics. All of these Transformers are soldiers. They're warriors. So it's just confusing. There's a lot that is not explained, and you kind of just have to go with it, right? Because I mean, that's just how it goes. And even with all of like these, like the term is what, like discrepancy. Even with all of these discrepancies, the movies still turn out to be fairly entertaining. I mean, at the end of the day, it's giant robots that try to hide amongst humans, fighting other giant robots that try to hide amongst humans. And then at one point, it's humans hunting the giant robots, and the giant robots hunting the humans, and for some weird reason, in almost all the movies, the Decepticons actually get the upper hand and have the power to destroy the Earth and fumble the bag every single time. And then there are scenes where, like, the Decepticons can actually end all of this early by killing so-or-so, or having this happen. But they decide not to, and because of that, they end up dying themselves. It's like you're a giant robot. Like, the equivalent, right, would be like us. Like humans, adult humans, chasing toddlers. Toddlers with like the brains of adult humans, right? We're faster than them. We move faster than them. We're stronger than them. We might not be too much smarter. Like our brains might be like on the same levels, but still, we have better weaponry than them. Like we can take them on, right? With ease. And for some reason, we lose almost every single time. And it's as if they just have plot armor. It doesn't make sense, man. It just does not make sense. And that happens a lot in the Transformer like movies. You'll find out that majority of the time, nothing makes sense. Like the new one. Mirage is the first Transformer we see in any of the live action movies that actually merges with a human and gives them like a Gundam suit. So you're telling me that this was like capable of happening in like the 90s, right? Why aren't they doing it in like the up-to-date ones? If Optimus grows this close to humans, why doesn't he help Sam Witwicky? Why doesn't he let him use him as a suit? Or Bumblebee use him as a suit because Bumblebee was more closer to Sam than Optimus was, right? Why didn't Sam do it for... Why didn't Optimus do it for like that new guy with the daughter? Or why didn't he give like the daughter a suit made out of himself? Because the daughter is obviously a liability in the entire movie until the very end. Which also doesn't make sense because we find out that like she's been lying behind her dad's back and doing stuff that she shouldn't be doing, but it turns around to like actually help them survive later on in the movie. But she is the main damsel in distress and the main reason why they have to save Optimus, and everything basically happens the way that it happens because she becomes like the person who decides this or that, and she's like the reason why they were stuck on like that little wire when they could have been crossed through from like the ship to like back down to Earth. And you're just watching it and you're like, yo, a lot of this stuff didn't have to happen if she wasn't such a liability. And it like pisses you off to see them do it because, man, it's just nonsensical. And to this day, we still haven't seen the Queen. And then they're like hinting at G.I. Joe, and like certain scenes just don't make sense. And it's just action. That's all you really care about, man. It's just the action, because the story is all over the place, and it's constantly all over the place. And you have these ancient robots who aren't necessarily dead or who have been hiding this entire time, but I guess were deactivated until a spark touches them. And the ancient robots can have dementia like humans and actually start forgetting stuff and falling apart, and they're like PTSD soldiers. And it's so much, man. It's just so much. And so much so now to the point to where like the new movie is them going back in time, and like the main female is the one from like Swarm, where her sister was getting back shots, and the main male character I believe is Alexander Hamilton's son from the Alexander Hamilton play. So I mean, there's just there's just so much going down, man, and I just wanted to rant. I know it's all over the place. I planned on doing this in order, but I just made food. I don't care anymore. You know, hopefully the next one is just as goofy and full of action as the others are. I hadn't seen any of the GI Joes yet, so maybe that'll be something else that like I'll catch up on. Right now I'm watching like One Piece and Gotham Knights. Oh man, yeah. Peace.